There's a kind of comfort in the so-called iconic image, one that hasn't changed over the course of time with the exception of some natural wear and tear, which is why the 3-decade career of the Japanese conceptual photographer Yasumasa Morimura is so captivating. His practice embodies the people and the pictures we know best, from time-tested self-portraits by Vincent van Gogh and Frida Kahlo to Edouard Manet's famous reclining nude, Olympia. Morimura's shape-shifting uproots that comfort instilled in classic images, commands that we challenge what we think we know about the self, and essentially writes Japanese identity into the Western-dominated art historical timeline. To coincide with Morimura's exhibition entitled Ego Obscura at the Japan Society in New York City, we're taking a closer look at this elusive art star. This is Several Circles. It was at the 51st Venice Biennale in 1988 that Yasumasa Morimura introduced his face to the world. He embodied other people of other time periods, ages, and genders in his chromogenic prints and photographs, and he ascended to international recognition from the profundity of his approach. Morimura's practice is all about identity and authenticity, more specifically confronting our rather homogenized perceptions of these grandiose concepts that we generally consider fixed. Acting as a complete chameleon, Morimura offers up a body of work in which his face, his most important artistic tool, is faintly recognizable, but he's never himself. On the flip side, he muddles the identity of the people staring back at the viewer. Frida Kahlo isn't Frida Kahlo. Rembrandt is no longer Rembrandt. Warhol isn't really Warhol. To better understand what prompted Morimura's vision, we have to rewind to his formative years. Born in Osaka in 1951, he came of age in the immediate aftermath of World War II. The San Francisco Peace Treaty, which ended the war, was signed the same year he was born. He subsequently grew up in an era of economic strength for Japan. The 80s in particular facilitated increased Japanese interest in collecting European art, Impressionist art in particular, which in turn prompted a rising global interest in Japanese art. So fast forward to 1988 when Morimura emerges on the scene at the Venice Biennale, otherwise known as the Art World Olympics, and his work was received eagerly. Only 3 years before the Biennale, Morimura created his first photographic intervention, styling himself as Vincent van Gogh's harrowing self-portrait with bandaged ear and pipe from 1889. Now, Morimura's choice to embark on this journey of the self with Van Gogh as his point of origin was fitting. Van Gogh was inspired by traditional Japanese woodblock prints, and his work was received with reverence in Japan, where Impressionism and Post-Impressionism were favored styles of painting. But Morimura has also communicated compassion for Van Gogh's tormented search for his true self, an endeavor so taxing that it famously led the Dutch artist to self-mutilation and suicide. The irony is that Van Gogh was the paradigm of artistic success in Japan. So by posing as the most desirable artist in Western history, Morimura not only showcased his empathy for a like-minded man, but he also placed himself as a Japanese artist on the art history continuum that had really ignored Japanese art until the post-war era. From there, Morimura made an entire career out of meticulously staging himself as artists and subjects from history. The early Netherlandish painter Jan van Eyck, Leonardo da Vinci, both David and Goliath after Caravaggio's famous portrayal of the notorious biblical tale, Edouard Manet's alluring Olympia, whom Morimura posed as twice, once in 1988 in which he's clearly embodying a classical European woman, and again in 2018 wearing a distinctively Japanese headdress. In 2016, the artist revisited each of his old master portrayals in a project called Ego Symposion, by which he created accompanying dialogues and thought processes as each subject. Morimura once said in an interview, quote, "Self-portraits do not gratify a desire on my part for self-presentation or self-promotion, nor are they meant to be humorous or laughable. Self-portraiture provides a history-making tool, guided by the creative measures of one's own self," unquote. So much of Morimura's process is also about power, the power to reshape a historical epic. This aspect of Morimura's photography was also applied to pop culture figures like Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn, actresses in particular who were very much the subject of the male gaze, and who became popular in post-war Japanese culture. In his Requiem series from 2006, the artist pivoted to embody political leaders like Che Guevara, Adolf Hitler, Vladimir Lenin, and Mao Zedong. These later series really shatter the limits of Morimura's approach. He completely defies gender and sexuality as Hollywood's leading ladies, and then he shifts to deceptively personify select men who completely changed the course of history. Until January 13th, 2019, the Japan Society aggregates some of Morimura's most exemplary portraits for his first New York City solo exhibition titled Ego Obscura. The show includes iterations of self-portraits by the old masters, photographs in which he stages himself as post-war pop culture and political figures, and 2 video works, the American premiere of Morimura's first full-length video called Ego Symposion, as well as his most recent installation entitled Ego Obscura from 2018. In its entirety, the exhibition is a theatrical presentation invitation that commands viewers, regardless of age, nationality, or culture, to join Morimura in his lifelong search to better understand what is I. Thanks for watching Several Circles, and please subscribe for more videos on historic, modern, and contemporary artists from around the world.